on behalf of Senator Ted Cruz. Minutes ago, Cruz was speaking. This is a high-profile midterm in Texas, who are carrying this rally tonight for you. Cruz has been neck and neck with Robert Beto O'Rourke in the polls there. We're going to continue to listen in.
With all my friends from the Lone Star State, a special place. Thank you very much for being here. This is some record crowd. And they just told me we broke the record, but we could really break it if we could get all the people that are outside in here. We'd break it by 3 times. But it's true what they say. Everything in Texas is just bigger. Right? It's bigger. In just 15 days, the people of Texas are going to re-elect a man who has become a really good friend of mine. You know, we had our little difficulties, right? But actually, if you remember, the beginning, it was a love fest. And they kept saying, the fake news back here, they kept saying, remember they kept saying, well, when is it going to break up? And I'd say, don't worry, it'll break up. We actually had a rally in Washington, D.C. together, and nobody could believe it. They said, what's going on? What are you doing? But we had the rally together, and then we said, you know, it's time. That's what has to happen. And it got nasty. And then it ended, and I'll tell you what, nobody has helped me more with your tax cuts, with your regulation, with all of the things that we're doing, including military and our vets, than Senator Ted Cruz. Nobody. He defended your jobs. He defended your borders, and we are defending that border, by the way, in case you haven't noticed. We are defending that border. He defends your families. He defends your faith. And we are defending together, with a lot of other great Republicans, your freedom. Now, early voting is now underway, so get out there and vote. It is underway as we speak. If you'd like to leave now, go ahead. Anybody want to leave now? Go vote. Come back. Get behind about 50,000 people outside who we love, and we put big screens out for them. Let's wave to them. Wave. But I will say you got a better location. Your location's better. And Ted is leading the charge in Congress for more tax cuts. In fact, I just left Kevin Brady. By the way, how good is Kevin Brady? He's around here, sir. He's here. We're going to be putting in a 10% tax cut for middle-income families. It's going to be put in next week. 10% tax cut. Kevin Brady is working on it. We've been working on it for a few months, a 10% brand new, and that is in addition to the big tax cuts that you've already gotten. But this one is for middle income. This is no business. Business is now good. They're coming back. The jobs are coming back. The plants and factories are coming back like never before. They're all coming back. This is for middle income people, all middle income people, a big tax cut, 10%. We'll be putting it in next week. Now, if the Democrats take over, I can't speak. I'm sorry. Instead of a tax cut, you're going to have a big, beautiful tax raise. You don't want that. You know, explain that to me. They're for open borders, which means crime, and for massive tax cuts. They're against law enforcement. They're totally against ICE and law enforcement. They're against your military, and they're not good to your vets. How do you win on that platform? No, how do you win? So we're doing, again, we've done the biggest regulation cuts in the history of our country, and I'm only here for almost 2 years. Actually, quite a bit less than 2 years, if you think about it. We have another 3 months. And we've already done more tax cuts, and We have already done the biggest tax cut, but we've done more regulation cuts than any other president in history. And that's 4 years, 8 years, 12 years. And what we're doing, we want people to come into our country. We have a 3.7% unemployment. It's the lowest it's been in more than 50 years. But they have to come in legally, and they have to come in through merit, That's happening. Need it. So we started the wall. We got $1.6 billion. We got another $1.6 billion. We have a third $1.6 billion. I want to do it fast. And you know what's happening right now as a large group of people, they call it a caravan. Do you know how the caravan started? Does everybody know what this means? I think the Democrats had something to do with it, and now they're saying, I think we made a big mistake, because people are seeing how bad it is, how pathetic it is, how bad our laws are. They made a big mistake. So as the caravan, and look, that is an assault on our country. That's an assault. And in that caravan, you have some very bad people. You have some very bad people. And we can't let that happen to our country, and it's not. And I was just talking to your great governor and senators, and you were talking about your attorney general, who I'm going to be introducing in a second, but I'm talking to a lot of your people, and they're going to form a wall, different kind of a wall, until we get the other one built. We need a wall built fast, fast. We have to protect our borders. We don't have borders. We don't have a country. We have to protect our borders. And Ted, you probably saw, did a beautiful job in staring down an angry left-wing mob in our recent Supreme Court battle victory, whatever you want to call it. He was great. And thanks to Ted and our other great Republicans, because we had no help from the other side, as you know, we now have a brand new member of the United States Supreme Court, Justice Brett Kavanaugh. And also, this is such an honor because, you know, you've had many presidents. They never get to put a justice on the Supreme Court. They've been there for a long time. Think of this. This is the story of our lives. I've been there less than 2 years, and I have 2 of them because we also have a fantastic new justice in Neil Gorsuch. We had him just approved. He was just confirmed. And we have a record number of circuit court judges for the time that we've been in office. And that we fully expect to go to the all-time record. And percentage-wise, it's right up there, and we've only been here short. Okay, ready? Here's a question. Percentage-wise, who has more justices, federal judges appointed, percentage-wise, than any other president? Who is it? No, more. Who appointed the highest percentage of judges? No. Wasn't Hillary Clinton. No, she didn't make it, remember? She didn't. No, you know who it is? You'll never guess. It's called George Washington, and we're after George Washington, so a very big thing. No, George Washington. Why? Because he just started. He did 100%. Nobody's ever going to break that record. Nobody's ever going to break the record of George Washington. Good old George. He never told a lie. That's what they say. George Washington, right? He never told a lie. But he did 100%. of the judges. We'll never beat that record, but we're getting close. What the radical Democrats did to Justice Kavanaugh and his beautiful family is a national disgrace. They were on a ruthless mission to obstruct, resist, delay, demolish, and destroy, which is all they know how to do. The fact is, they're lousy politicians. They have horrible policy, but they stick together. That's one good thing. They stick together. It's the only thing they have. They always stick together. Other than that, doesn't work out. Other than that, they're not doing too well. If you want the fake news media to finally investigate By the way, don't worry, I don't like him either, okay? But look at this. Look, just look. So here we are, we're doing a rally for Ted, and it's great, we have a lot of people. Look how many meet it. This is this is the Academy Awards, which actually has gone down the tubes. I think we do much better. Look how many. Look how many. Look at them. Do you recognize many of those happy faces back there? I know every one of them. I know every one of them, and 15% of them are great. Everyone. I know everyone. But if you want the fake news to finally investigate Hillary Clinton, we'll just have I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. So if you want him to investigate, we'll just have to nominate Hillary Clinton to the United States Supreme Court. How do you like that, Uncle? Right? Let's see how she does. If Judge Kavanaugh had to go through what he went through, and he's a fine man. Can you imagine Hillary up there? That would take 3 to 4 years of questions. At stake in this election is whether we continue the extraordinary prosperity that we've all achieved, or whether we let the radical Democrat mob take a giant wrecking ball and destroy our country and our economy. The unemployment rate just fell to the lowest level in more than 50 years, 5-0. Here's one that's hard to beat, because the number of Americans working at this moment, think of it, at this working. The number of Americans working has just reached the highest in the history of our country, all-time high. We have eliminated a record number of job-killing regulations. That's one of the reasons our companies are all coming back. Republicans passed the biggest tax cut and reform in history, with massive tax cuts for the middle class, and now we're adding 10% to those numbers. We've saved your family farms, ranches, and small businesses from the estate tax, also known as the death tax. So most of you love your children, some of you don't. But the ones that don't listen to me, because this won't matter, because you're not going to leave it anyway. And if you don't love your children, and if your children didn't treat you good, don't leave them anything. Give it to charity or somebody else. But for those of you that really would like your small businesses, your farms, your ranches left to your children, instead of now having your children go out when you kick the bucket. A sad day. And about 2 or 3 days later, they're happy as hell. No, I forgot. Instead of having them go out and borrow a tremendous amount of money to pay the estate tax, they don't have to borrow anything. There's no tax. There's no tax. So you'll be able to me, that's a very important thing. Nobody even talks about. That was in our tax cuts. So a lot of small business, a lot of farms, ranches, and there'll be no tax. So that's great for your children. Only if you love them. Only if you love them. Anybody in here does not love their child? Anybody? Couple of them. 2 people, that's not bad. My administration also ended the horrible war on American energy, something you people know a lot about. We withdrew the United States from the very unfair, one-sided Paris Climate Accord, which was putting us out of business. On day 1, I approved the Keystone and the Dakota Access Pipeline. 48,000 jobs. Day 1. Day 1. Think of that, day 1. They spent years and years trying to get these pipelines built. And by the way, we're speeding up the approval process by a factor of 10 for your pipelines that you desperately need in Texas to get the oil to its destination. We're speeding it up. I've heard so much. With Texas leading the way, think of this one. The United States is now, this happened over the last very short period of time, the largest producer of crude oil and natural gas anywhere in the world. Thank you. Pretty big. That's big stuff. We're the #1 energy producer in the world. Who would think that? And we're going to get those pipelines approved very rapidly. I call the heads of the agencies. I say, get them approved. And you know what? If there's a problem, we let them know about the problem immediately. We don't take them 20 years down the road and then say we can't approve it. We let them know immediately. There won't be a problem. For the first time in more than 60 years, America is a net exporter of natural gas. And here's good news for Texas. Good news for Texas. Because just today, Germany's Chancellor Angela Merkel has announced that her country will now purchase massive amounts of LNG, which is great news for your state. And I told all of the European nations it's not fair. We have all these horrible trade imbalances. They take such advantage, they're not taking advantage anymore, folks. Under Republican leadership, America is winning again. America is respected again because we are putting America first. We're putting America first. It hasn't happened in a lot of decades. We're putting them first. We're taking care of ourselves for a change, folks. Thank you. I like that guy, but not that much. Not that much. But radical Democrats want to turn back the clock, restore the rule of corrupt, power-hungry globalists. You know what a globalist is, right? You know what a globalist is. A globalist is a person that wants the globe to do well, frankly, not caring about our country so much. And you know what? We can't have that. You know, they have a word. It sort of became old-fashioned. It's called a nationalist. And I say, really, we're not supposed to use that word. You know what I am? I'm a nationalist, okay? I'm a nationalist. Nationalist. Nothing else. Use that word. Use that word. They reported yesterday that Donald Trump is very unpopular with foreign nations. He's one of the most unpopular presidents in the history of polling. And I said, no. I said, of course I'm unpopular with foreign nations because we're not letting them rip us off anymore, folks. Okay? They meant it to be bad. When the fake news, they meant it to be bad. Donald Trump, very unpopular with other nations. And you know what I had? It was 70% against and 30% for. I said, who is the 30%? Why would they ever want to vote for him? Because honestly, we're treating everybody good. We're helping people. We're protecting people. But, you know, when we protect with our military, the greatest in the world, and now it's a lot better than it's ever been because of what we're doing, we have to be reimbursed for that protection. We have to be reimbursed. We're protecting the wealthiest nations in the world, and we're subsidizing them. And then they beat us on trade. They take advantage of us. So those days are over. You're seeing it. It's happening fast. Happening fast. The most unpopular president, think of that. Most unpopular president. But I'm one of the most popular presidents in this country, and that's good. That's what's good. In our country, a couple of polls came out today that were very good, and they didn't want to put them on. They didn't want to announce them. And they paid for the polls. We have a new poll out. Let me see. Let's get to another subject. Fake news. The Democrats want to replace freedom with socialism. They want to replace Texas values with Nancy Pelosi values. And they want to replace the rule of law with the rule of the mob. That's what's happening. And the Democrats would rather destroy American communities than defend America's borders. I'm not going to let it happen. Got to vote for Ted Cruz. Democrats. The Democrats are a big risk to the American family, and our country cannot afford to take those kind of risks. We can't. This will be the election of the caravan, Kavanaugh, law and order, tax cuts, and common sense. That's what it is, common sense. Ted's opponent in this race is a stone-cold phony named Robert Francis O'Rourke, sometimes referred to as Beto. And he pretends to be a moderate, but he's actually a radical, open borders left-winger. That's what he is. And I know Texas well. Don't forget, they tried to convince you on election night that Texas is in play. I kept hearing, I'd go to a thing and I'd have, remember the lines I'd have for the speeches? We'd have lines like it is tonight. I hate to tell you, I think the lines are bigger tonight than they were 2 years ago. You know why? Because I produced. Because I produced. No, the lines are bigger tonight, and it's easier. You know, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I have to get up and say, we will give you tax cuts. We will cut regulations. But it was all words. Now I've produced, so this is easy. This is easy. In fact, some of those guys, and they don't question it, will say that I produced more than I promised, which is true. Which is true, actually. But O'Rourke voted against your tax cuts, and he went against Texas oil workers with the job-killing regulations and taxes that were really, really hurting those jobs and those companies. O'Rourke supports a socialist takeover of health care. You're going to triple your taxes, and it won't be enough. And it'll be lousy health care. You'll end up waiting for 5 weeks to see a doctor. And I heard Ted say, just before I went on, but to me this is a beauty, because I don't know of anybody that's earned this rating. He got an F from the NRA, one of the few. You know what an F means? An F means he wants to take away your guns, okay? That's what it means. I never even heard of an F. I never heard. Louis, did you ever hear of an F? I never heard. Do we love Louis? Do we love Louis? Look at him. Louis Gohmert. We love him. I don't know what Louis' rating is, but I would assume it's about, what, an A+, right? A++. Louis. I love people that are guts. They have guts. He has guts. Gets up there. They defend you. And they defend your Second Amendment. And if Ted doesn't win, your Second Amendment is going to be in trouble. Big trouble. Remember that. O'Rourke voted against the border wall. Oh, that's a good thing to him. He voted against Kate's law, and he voted for Obama amnesty. Obama amnesty. O'Rourke even voted to shield MS-13 gang members from deportation. He doesn't want to deport them. He says they're people. They're people. They carve you up with a knife, but they're people. O'Rourke voted in favor of sanctuary cities that result in the deaths of countless Americans. Today's Democrat Party would rather protect criminal aliens than American citizens, which is why the Democrats must be voted out of office. We need more Republican votes. A vote for a Democrat this November is a vote to surrender Congress to Nancy Pelosi, crying Chuck Schumer, the great Maxine Waters. That's a beauty. Maxine Waters. Do you get that one? Do you get that? Maxine. She's going to be in charge of your finances. Maxine. Good old Maxine. Low IQ individual. Low IQ. How about this one? Senator Dianne Feinstein. The mayor who did one of the worst jobs of any mayor other than the guy running for governor in Florida. He was a horrible mayor, too. Cory Booker, he destroyed what he did. He was so bad running New York. And a sad thing happened last week because Elizabeth Warren was exposed as being a total fraud, and I can no longer call her Pocahontas because she has no Indian blood. I can't call her. Man. I can't call her Pocahontas. She doesn't qualify. She has. I've been saying it for a long time. I've been saying it for a year and a half. I said, I have more Indian blood than she has, and I have none. I have none, but I have more than she has. But I can't use the name Pocahontas anymore, but if you don't mind, I will anyway. Is that okay? We got to keep her down. But in this election, the people of Texas are going to make a giant and beautiful stand. You're going to elect a Republican House, and even they're having a little problem. They're getting a little nervous, right? Remember about a month ago, right? They were talking about this blue wave. Oh. You don't hear about the blue wave. You're not hearing so much. The blue wave is being dissipated a little bit. I don't hear them talk. Are you guys still talking about the blue wave? The blue wave, that's coming, right? Blue wave. You don't hear about it too much. Let me tell you, you got to get out and vote. Because you know what happens? The party that has the presidency, I don't know why. I guess you get a little sedate. I guess you get a little something. Who knows? You lose something. I don't know. But I think 2 times since the Great Depression, it was a positive. But nobody ever had the condition of having produced the greatest economy in the history of our country, right? Nobody. So I don't understand why would we lose the House? But historically, so history's against us, but the facts are all with us. So I think we're going to do well. You have to get out and vote. Early voting, remember. But I think we're going to do great with the House, and we're going to do fantastic with the Senate, so that we can keep making America great again. And you know, we're going to be changing. I love that slogan. I hate this. Okay, let me ask your advice, right? Texas, you're smart, you're tough. So we have Make America Great Again. I think it has to be the greatest slogan in the history of politics, right? Make America Great Again. What did she have? Some stupid slogan like, stay together. And then when I knocked her, or wasn't it like, stay with me? And then I got up and I said, see, that's all she can talk about is herself. So they paid $1 million for that slogan, and she changed it the next morning because it was a...
Good evening, everybody. Our top stories. The caravan of Central American migrants continues to swell in numbers as it treks northward through Mexico to the U.S. southern border. Neither Honduras, El Salvador, nor Guatemala governments demonstrated any inclination to halt the caravan, and the Mexican government appears to be aiding the growing caravan rather than slowing or stopping it as it pledged to do. President Trump standing strong in the face of a full-blown national security crisis. The president saying the administration will be cutting off aid to the Central American countries for their failure to stop the caravan. President Trump obviously disappointed and deeply concerned that Mexico now clearly supports and is assisting the thousands of migrants as they travel toward our border.
They could do a lot better job. You look at the 3 countries in particular, and I don't know what's going on with Mexico. I guess it looks like the people are walking right through the middle of Mexico. So I'm not exactly thrilled there either.
And tonight, President Trump is in the great state of Texas, where a massive crowd has assembled. Look at all of these people. Thousands have waited hours and hours to get inside Houston's Toyota Center. An estimated 100,000 people have RSVP'd tonight. Thousands on hand to see the president campaign for his former presidential rival, Senator Ted Cruz.
He's not Lion Ted anymore. He's beautiful Ted. He's Texas. I call him Texas Ted.
Beautiful Texas Ted and the President of the United States on stage tonight. We'll be bringing you all of the news from what promises to be an informative and entertaining night of politics. The Dean of Republican Strategists, Ed Rollins, with us tonight. And is there any limit on presidential power as President Trump threatens to deal with the onslaught of tens of thousands of Central American migrants if they reach our border? President Trump says if Mexico does not act responsibly, the president will send troops to the border to stop that caravan that would clearly overwhelm our borders unless the president does take action. Here to take up the issues of presidential authority, how we as a nation can react to this national emergency, and how we can fix our broken borders and disastrous immigration laws, former federal prosecutor Andrew McCarthy and two of the brightest legal minds in the country, attorneys Victoria Tensing and Joe DeGenova. Also tonight, this promises to be an extraordinary hour. We turn first to the caravan that has created a political crisis, and if it reaches our southern border, a national emergency. It is still growing and still making its way north, despite efforts or the lack of efforts of the Mexican government, which pledged originally to the Trump administration to stop the caravan. National correspondent William Lajeunesse is in southern Mexico, just north of the Guatemalan border, and has the latest for us.
A showdown heading towards the U.S. border as the migrant caravan began moving some 25 miles north Monday, helped by Mexicans offering food, water, and transportation.
You know, like these people's doing right now. Look at them. They got good hearts.
Since leaving Honduras last week, organizers say the group doubled in size to more than 7,000. Some applied for asylum here, but most say they want to enter the U.S., legally or not, despite the president's warning.
This is not going to be easy. But, you know, it's a lot of people. I don't think he's going to be able to stop everybody.
After first telling President Trump it would stop the caravan, Mexico reversed course, overwhelmed by sheer numbers and wanting to avoid a violent confrontation. The immigrants also know the U.S. cannot catch or deport them all, releasing hundreds of Central Americans each day because of court decisions and a lack of shelter space.
I don't know if we're gonna apply for asylum. You know, that depends if we can get there first. You know, but my dream is get through the border.
That remains some 1,400 miles away, or roughly a 3-month walk. Migrants hope buses or the train will cut that time in half. Their final destination, we're told, California, not Arizona or Texas. Mexico says roughly 1,000 families applied for asylum here. If approved, they can stay in Mexico to live and work. The United Nations Refugee Agency is helping process those claims, but also makes the distinction between migrants fleeing crime and poverty versus likely victims of racial, religious, or political persecution.
Migrants are the ones that willingly are leaving their countries to pursue a better future, as you mentioned, while refugees are people that they don't have the possibility to go back, either because they will face death or retaliation.
What we're seeing, Lou, is a massive exodus, clearly from Honduras, many from Guatemala, even from El Salvador. The people complain of crime and corruption, say there is no money, there's no hope, and that it is better off leaving than staying. And they say because they have nothing to lose, they will continue to come. Lou?
William, thank you very much. William Lajeunesse reporting from southern Mexico. President Trump hitting back hard against the Central American governments that failed to stop this caravan and the radical Dems who have been encouraging them to come to our country illegally. Fox News Chief White House correspondent John Roberts with our report.
Lou, good evening. Expect that caravan and immigration in general to be front and center at the president's campaign rally tonight in Houston, Texas. Along the American southern border, illegal immigration is up 30% this year compared to last. And the president believes he has a very powerful issue with which to get voters out to the polls. On his way out of the White House, President Trump today said Central American nations stand to lose hundreds of millions of dollars in U.S. aid if they don't stop repeated migrant caravans from heading to the United States.
We have been giving so much money. When we ask them to keep their people in their country, they're unable to do it. It's called Make America Great Again.
President Trump today also doubled down on his unverified assertion that there are criminals, even Middle Easterners, among the caravan's population, challenging journalists to go look for themselves.
John, take your camera, go into the middle, and search. You're going to find MS-13, you're going to find Middle Eastern, you're going to find everything. And guess what? We're not allowing them in our country. We want safety.
The president again threatened today to engage the U.S. military to shut down the border, tweeting, "I have alerted Border Patrol and military that this is a national emergency. Must change laws." In a push to motivate the Republican base, President Trump is laying blame for the caravan at the feet of the Democrats.